Brothers and sisters, one of the themes that I've been thinking about lately in terms of Advent is the idea of the hiddenness of God. Last year, I don't know if you remember, but we did a series called Worshipping a Hidden God, based on the great wisdom of Archbishop Martinez, who's was a very and is a venerable bishop of Mexico. He died. He was the spiritual father of Blessed Conchita, the great lay mystic in Mexico that ended up founding some religious orders and was really a victim soul in many ways, offering her life to the Lord with profound insights into the spiritual life. But coming back to this theme about the hiddenness of God, and I've also been reading something recently by Father Hegarty on St. John of the Cross, Master of Contemplation. There's a chapter in that where he talks about kind of this process by which God leads us to carve out the great caverns of our soul, of our intellect and our will, our memory, the great powers of the soul, the human soul, that the Lord is, purifies so that we could get in touch with a profound yearning and desire for the Lord, for God. And that the Lord purifies these elements of our human soul in different ways. In terms of our intellect, certainly the Lord could purify us by trials of faith that somehow confound the intellect, our mind, to the absence of God or that temptations to think that God doesn't exist, or all these different ways that after a soul has committed itself on the path to God can really face these trials, but they're really great purgings by the fire of God in our soul, in our mind, and in our heart, to carve out, to remove any imperfections in the intellect and in our will, so that we could come to have a more profound faith in God in this life, a more profound certitude of God's existence, of his love, of his promises. And the same thing with our will, like the great trials of love that we go through, where we sometimes just face with the stark reality that it dawns on the saint at some point, upon the mystic, that they may not truly ever really love God and neighbor. They might be just seeking after our own consolations, or maybe a disordered penchant for sanctity, not for the sake of God, but for the sake of like drawing honor to oneself, or feeling one has arrived and one is holy, or whatever it is. So and that in fact that we could discover in these moments that, well, I don't really love my neighbors. I don't really love, in a way. I might think so, but how often is it that there's some other selfish motive maybe moving these things? So only God can really purify us in these ways. And this comes back to the theme about the hiddenness. And so one of the ways of God is hidden is that it causes the lover to search for him. Even though God is right there, he's right in front of our face all the time, he's right around us, but he's beyond our perception. Sometimes God gives us graces to perceive him, but even what those feelings of God are, those perceptions of God are, could never capture God himself. God is beyond that. And yet there is some kind of real contact with him, and this is by faith and by love, and our hope in the soul reaches us out to him, keeps us moving towards him. But yet God is beyond. And I suppose this is where these great trials of the spiritual life happen, so that the Lord can direct us to a greater yearning and hunger for him, to want to penetrate the veil between this world and the next, to see him, and to come to truly want to love him above all things. And so one of the great themes of Advent is this hiddenness, this great mystery of the hiddenness of God coming right now in the sacraments, in the presence of the Holy Spirit in our soul, and by sanctifying grace, that we're truly, temples of God, that there is that hidden presence of God in our soul that St. John of the Cross is very concerned with, and wants that great purification is for us to be able to realize that we can hold and possess God already by love in our soul, but our feelings fail us often that the Lord is there, but that it's faith, it's making that act of faith that, Lord, you are here, and I believe your word, I believe all your promises you've told us, I believe that the sending of the Holy Spirit of Pentecost, that you brought about this great gift for the church. And so the Lord is hidden, but that causes us to want to search for him. It hastens our desire for him, just like the absence of our loved one makes us often more fond for them.